I was just trying to make sure it was going to record because the other day it began to record and it stopped. Once my video was done, I went to go load the video and I realized that the recording had stopped. So that's what I was just checking to see if it was still recording. And at this time, it's still recording. So, okay. I've been telling myself to make this video for a while now. But full transparency, it's a lot. And that's probably why I have not made it, because it is a lot. So I'm going to do my best to explain to you what happened to me. And I want to say this is for entertainment purposes only. This is a story. It may or may not be taken as real, depending on who's listening. Okay. So, about a week ago, I felt something pulling on my energy. It had been pulling on my energy for a while, but it was different. I always feel someone, something pulling on my energy. I and I typically am able to deal with it, but this pull was massive. It was energy that I had not felt before, and I felt a lot of different energies. And so I tried to ignore it, but soon I couldn't because it was affecting my body. And all of a sudden, my feet started to swell up, and they were the size of balloons. They were so big, they hurt. And I realized something was trying to pull my soul out of my body. That's what I would say was happening. And so I called in my guides, called in my team, and discussed what was happening. And we didn't really, okay, so I believe they knew what was happening. They didn't tell me what was happening. And I had no idea what was happening. I just knew that there was a pull and it was starting to break down the physical vessel that I reside in. And usually my team doesn't let that happen. Usually but I won't get into all that. This time they let it happen. Okay. And I came to the conclusion I was going to have to go with the pull. And so I talked to my team about who was going to come, who was going to stay, what was going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And I prepared myself to go. And I didn't think I wasn't coming back. I just didn't know where I was going and what I was going to see. So I decided that I would go somewhere where I knew I could ground myself and find my way back. So I went to the place where I knew I could ground myself. I grounded myself there. And there I saw my guides and my team. I think one came with me. I'm not going to say who that was. And I went into a meditative state and I let my consciousness or my consciousness go with where I was being pulled. And I was pulled into so it's not heaven and it's not hell. It's kind of like a place for arbitration. And when I got pulled there, there was a lot of people there. I really couldn't even count all the people because I was trying to figure out what the fuck is this? But they were all talking at me kind of in a yelling tone. Um, some looked a little familiar, like I had seen them before, but most not at all. And they were accusing me of things that I was like, what in goodness sake are they talking about? And they believed that what they were speaking was the truth. And there were so many of them. At the time, though, I didn't know there was as many as there were, and I'll tell you how many there were later. But they were all coming at me, and they were very upset. And I just remember that I had been doing card reads out of this deck, and I remember Don, and I just remember Don was the god of death. And it's like there was a reason I opened up this card deck because I usually don't pull out of these dark decks. Um, so I just screamed, Don! And Don appeared. It's Don. And he looked just like that, had a stick and everything. Um, I wasn't afraid or anything of him, but he does look just like that. And um, and then I began to call. So I'm not sure in what order I called, but so forgive me if I'm getting it out of order. But I believe I called El-Shabati for myself. And the reason I called him is because I knew he aligned with the Elohim, and I do as well. And so I couldn't even really pronounce his name. I just put it in my head, and all of a sudden he appeared. And in the meantime, they're all still yelling and accusing me of stuff. And then I said, Anubis! Anubis! I started screaming for Anubis. And Anubis is the arbiter of truth. He's the arbiter of truth. And I just started screaming for Anubis, and Anubis came in. Full transparency, I think I know Anubis. I'm not sure how. I don't know that he knows how, but I feel like he thinks he knows me too. But not this me, but my soul, who I really am. But so Anubis came in, and they all were accusing me of, many of them were saying that I took them out. I was the reason they were there. And Don began to pull records. He began to pull information. I don't even know how to say it, but stuff started coming up. As somebody would say something, it would come up and it would show what happened to them. And it showed groups of people doing spell work and stuff and casting it at me, casting it at my house, casting it at my mom and my family. And it would go back to them. And time after time, he would point to a person and it would show these groups of people doing spell work and other stuff, and how it would be sent to us and it would bounce off of, it wouldn't even make it to the house. There's something, well, I won't get into all that, but they would go back. And then Don began to tell them that they had killed themselves. And the reason the pull was so strong is because not everybody thought I had killed them. There were some who were ancestors of the people that have been doing the black magic and all these spell work and stuff. They had called in their ancestors to help pull my soul. And so they were all, oh, it's not true, it's not true, it's not true. And they were trying to leave. Some of them got away, but some of them got yanked in. And there was a lot of crying and weeping and saying that they did not know that these people had killed themselves by doing magic to someone who they should not be doing magic on. There was a lot of weeping. And I don't know why I say weeping, but at the time as I watched, it wasn't crying, it was a weeping. It was it was from inside. And there were some who were there that didn't have souls. And it was something about how everybody on the planet is different. Some people have souls, some people can shapeshift, some people can do this, some people can do that, some people have gifts. And because of the weeping, I remember calling in Marty R. I called in Marty R and I saw her. I actually saw Marty. And I called in Marty because I knew she consoled people and she helped them too. So I was looking in the book and it says, the Marty R invites us to look clearly upon ourselves and our deeds and see blindness in our souls, our aspects, so that we may not be eternally stricken. So I called Marty in so that she could help people see what really happened. And she began to help people. And between Dawn and Anubis bringing in the truth, and the truth was that I had done nothing, they began to apologize. And everything just happened. It was so much. Me trying to understand, like, how did all of this happen? And then Dawn or Anubis, or both of them, were showing groups of people that were instigating things, that were making up things, and those people were making sure that they didn't do anything that others did. And those groups of people were responsible for a lot of deaths in the community. And judgment is coming for them. Yeah. And then Dawn, after Anubis was setting people straight on the truth, the bitter truth, Don began to take them and his people. They began to take them. And as they would go, they would look back at me and they would say how sorry they were. They had no idea. And I stood with El-Shabati. I stood there. He was beside me. And it was weird because the ancestors that had been pulled in that were pulling on me, they didn't want any part of it after that. After they could see, but they had gotten involved, and now they were forced to go with Don, and they were devastated, absolutely devastated. And some, like I said, got away. Um, and I didn't know what was going to happen, but I did channel everyone and ask them if I could tell the story because it needed to be told and if I could use their names. And they said yes. And I was talking to Don, and and I just said, I want to be accurate in what I say. I said, how many were there? About 50? And he says, no. And I said, like 100, 200? He said, no. I said, 500? He said, an upward of 500. And I was like, my God. And I said, it was so much going on. I didn't even realize. And he said something about a lot of folks that didn't belong there. Their souls were awakened to come. And now they were having to go through judgment. And yeah, um, 500. And then I said, I guess that's why I felt it. It was pulling me out my body. And he said, yeah. And we didn't, that's it. Um, and I just asked Anubis if I could tell that I called him in, and he said yes. And I wanted to say, I feel like I've known you, but wasn't the time. It wasn't the time. So I'll circle back to that. And I believe I can't remember if I asked Marty or not. I hope I did. Um, but I believe I channeled them one by one. But things have been a little foggy since that has happened. And I now know that my team let it happen because I needed to see what was, I mean, I knew there was spell work because sometimes I could see, uh, well, I could see things. I won't go into what I see. But I didn't know it was to that magnitude. And I didn't know that people had such hatred that they would call their family members who were at rest and bring them into this. And now they are under judgment. Like, it was sad. And yeah, severe consequences are coming because of it. I did not stay. I was told I could go. And so I left. That's why I had to channel them and ask them if I could use their information because it was so much. Um, and that is just what I wanted to share with you all. Um, there are consequences for doing certain things. I don't have to tell y'all, you know. But when you wake up beings, with lies, and now they're going through judgment. Shame on you. Shame on all of you. You have no idea what the hell that you were doing or how everything works. Um, there are levels, and your levels are very low. You have been taught secrets and you have abused them. And for that, you will pay. And the consequences will be severe. Things you used to be able to do, you cannot do anymore. You need to stop and ask yourself, why isn't it working? Because it's not supposed to. Things are changing. They're never going back. But the consequences that you will face because of your actions, you cannot dodge them. Some of the ancestors that were there, like I said, they got away. They kind of slid out. They're like, oh, and I could just, there was so much going on, but I saw some sliding out. And then all of a sudden there was a hand, it was blocked. And then I asked Anubis what was going on with them. And I think it was Don Anubis, and they said they were being judged. They were all being judged. And I was like, what about the ones that got away? And I remember them saying, they are being brought in. They're being brought in. Even the ones that are hiding, the ones that they're all going to be brought in. There is no hiding. Um, yeah. So that's what happened. I'm fine. When I came back that night, my feet were still swollen, and um, someone very powerful came in and laid their hands on my feet, and I fell asleep. When I woke up, my feet were normal. It's gone. I went to the store I was at, like, I think I was at some store, a supermarket, and this guy, he acts like he dropped something and he was looking at my ankles. So I guess he was trying to see if the spell work was working. And it worked. It's just that I walk with some very powerful people. And they just really just put their hand on my feet. It was gone. 500 of you, one of them, it was gone. Y'all have created a mess for no reason. I'm going to stop there because it's just a lot. And how did I know to call in Don or Anubis or Marty? I don't know. How did I know to pull this book of this deck of cards and start using it? What I will tell you is that when I was pulled down there or up there or wherever it was a dark place, but I could see them. I didn't know there was more than 500, but I could see a lot of people. The energy matched. I knew to call Don because as soon as I got there, I remember feeling that energy when I was doing a card reading and I pulled Don. I remember. And I just remember that energy. And I just said, Don! And I screamed for him, and he showed up, and so on and so forth. So, yeah. All right, y'all. I just wanted to share that story with you. Judgment, it's coming. You can't run, you can't hide. It's coming. What y'all are doing is horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And I send you light because you're going to need it. That's it.